first of all, thank you so much for coming by to chat with us.
Thanks for having me.
I have to say, the documentary you would initially think would be such a niche film that only certain people would want to see. Somehow you make this a universal story that I think will be interesting to anyone, regardless of, what niche they fall into. So I think that's amazing.
Thanks. Well, the topic was surprisingly interesting to me. It was when I got the script for Magic Mike, my initial reaction was, there's no way I'm doing this movie. This is ridiculous. I had a lot of ideas in my head and just thought nobody would ever want to see this. And in fact, every studio passed on it to the point where it had to be made independently. But then the studios all lined up.
When you're a terrible dancer, you have to do the same act over and over. Do what works for you. I'm ready.
What's interesting about this world is the viewer gets to go into a locker room with a bunch of alpha men and hear how they talk. And if you had a crew of women, or even one woman on the crew, or a woman as a guest in the room with the interviews, their answers would change. And there's a rawness to the film that is only possible if you have a crew of guys filming these guys. It's interesting when you go and try to market a film like this, or you try to market a film like Magic Mike. It's impossible to market to men. It's just impossible because of the nature of what it is. It's never going to happen. You have to let them go. You have to market towards women. You have to market towards gay men. You have to market towards people who would be visually attracted to what's going on screen. But the content and what comes out of these guys' mouths is appealing to guys. It's just, how do you say that, or how do you tell guys that? But every single guy that's seen it, they're the ones that love it the most. And when you go in and see it in a big crowd, they're the ones who are laughing the loudest.
So interesting, because when you think about it, people, as soon as someone hears male stripper, they're like, oh, that's gay. Right. It's like, there's nothing more heterosexual than what's going on that stage.
Thank you. Why would you want to work a job in a female patroned strip club if you were a gay male? You'd want to work at a gay male strip club, or on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood or somewhere. Why would you want to do that to women? It just makes no sense. And when you kind of repeat that to people, because that is a common misperception, and I think a lot of the strength of the film is dispelling those misperceptions. Every single person who's seen this movie comes up to me afterwards and says, it's not what I thought.
Yeah.
Which is exactly the point. It wasn't what I thought either.
When the DJ,
Nick,
when he was explaining, when he was initially approached, he had that same, whoa, that sounds gay reaction at first.
It's a cultural thing. It's embedded into the culture. Somehow there is this contempt prior to investigation that clouds the world of male entertainment. I did it too, and I will completely admit that. I got a call from my agents. Hey, there's this script about male strippers, I want you to read it. I went, are you kidding me? And I even turned to Chris Rock and was like, are you really and he rolled his eyes too. I said, who's directing this? It's Steven Soderbergh. I went, okay, fine, I'll read it.
And then they told you the character name and you thought, well, how could I?
How can you pass up Big Dick Richie? Yeah, exactly.
I think this has a very interesting statement about equality in our society, because we've gotten to the point now where men can be seen as lustful objects the way women always have been. I mean, when you see something like Chippendales in Vegas, the fact that, Ian Ziering was the star of it, and some Amazing Race guys are the stars of it, and it's just becoming so much more mainstream and accepted now that I think we're starting to chip away at that prejudice that exists for it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's a product of feminism. Male stripping started in the late 1970s, much to my surprise. I, once again, had just assumed that there was some Victorian-era male stripper somewhere along the way, in his wig and leggings or something. That's just what I...
Showing just his
Yeah, totally, yeah. People
look at that!
Throwing doubloons at him, yes, stuffing them into his stock, The more doubloons, the lower the sock goes. I just thought.
Dude, that is brilliant, by the way.
Or the wig, putting them into the wig. That's what I assumed, and it wasn't. And because it was the late 1970s, and you look at, the trends culturally, it was feminism. And Randy so eloquently puts it, says something to the effect of, women had their rights, and they wanted their equal rights to male naked asses.
That's the American way. I say amen.
It is born out of equality. But what's interesting about it is that there are subtle differences and not so subtle differences. I mean, obviously there's the routines, the differences in routines. Guys don't want to see a routine. They don't care. Just take the clothes off and hurry up about it, And on the other side, women want a routine and costumes, which is where the comedy really begins.
Girls come here because they want to feel wanted.
And they just give you this, confidence.
Even though every time I get a hug, I give them $1, I still feel like they're my friends.
Get on. Get on. Somebody, anybody, everybody scream.
In a Chinese sense, there's a yin and yang. The yang being the aggressive, protective, and the yin being the receptive. The traditionally female energy. Women out in the workforce, they can be tough at work. They are this yang at work. Everyone's a yang at work. We're all tough, we're aggressive, we're trying to make that money. But when those women who are yangs in the workforce come into Le Bear, they put the yang away, and they pay these men. Not where a man in a strip club is paying a woman, I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to take your clothes off. You're going to go into the back room with me. Here's some money. You do what I say. There's an underlying resentment there because of that. These women come in. They put the yang down, become a yin, pay the guys to lead them through an adventure or through some sort of scenario. So they're paying a guy to be an expert level guy back to them, which I think is very interesting because it is a lost art in our current world. I think that there's a lot of men who don't know how to lead in the dance of life. A lot of men have just accepted a yin role to a female yang because, hey, this woman's hitting on me, it's my lucky day. But the thing about it is that I thought was really interesting that emerged was that there's a whole, there's a business and a lot of money to be made around knowing how to be a man and being very good at it, to the point where you can get paid by a woman to be a man where the other men in her life aren't being a man to her,
right.
Which I think is really interesting.
One of the girls that you talked to, I think, described it the best when she said,
men are more like a microwave and women are more like an oven. We need to turn on preheat.
Yeah, totally. Push the button, they turn on, and the women, you gotta crank them up.
You gotta crank it out for a little while. They're gonna be around for a few songs, It's not one and done. When you see a really good horror movie, the best horror movies are ones where you don't see the demon, you don't see the bad guy, or you just get a glimpse of him. That's kind of like the penis, I feel, in this situation.
I'm so glad you said that. People think male stripper movie, they think, dicks are going to be flying everywhere. And that's not the case at all. Because, number one, dicks don't get shown at a male strip club. First of all, so there's one of those cultural beliefs that we're dispelling. But, there's I guess not including Randy's playgirl. Randy's friend. There's one dick. And when it comes out, it's like the equivalent, the reaction is when Jaws eats the swimmer at the beginning of the movie. It's literally like you see the monster. And I mean monster, I don't mean monster, it's not like a monster dick. It's not at all, but there's a reaction that is equivalent to a monster movie. Oh, no! And it just goes on and on to the point where you can't hear anything for the next minute in the theater. But yeah, I'm glad you got that, because I've always said this, it's like a horror movie.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the less you show of it, you just gotta hint at it.
No,
and
you
they
just
are like,
horrified.
And then there's that moment, the accidental penis. It's like, oh man!
Yeah.
I just saw a dick! So many moments are so fun, and you get such a family feeling for these guys, and you really develop a respect for them. I mean, the way that they train and how serious they are about their craft. I think after watching this, it will be very hard for people to dismiss what they do.
I hear people, who've seen the film, walked in and went, they would say to me on the way into the theater, like at a premiere or a screening, like, I know you're going to want me to care about these people, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to care about them. I know what you're trying to do. And they would walk out with tears in their eyes, or their eyes red, and say, I care about them. What is wrong with you?
What have you done to me, Joe?
People cry.
Oh God, am I gay now? Am I gay?
No, they want to go hang out with those dudes. They're like, well, do you think maybe I can do this?
It's got to be hard for a man to get stuck in a candy store every day. Eventually, you're going to try one of the pieces of candy.
Congratulations again. You did such a great job.
Thank you.
And I think people will also be interested to learn a lot of stripper etiquette. I enjoyed at Amateur Night the proper way to tip a stripper, where your hands can go, where they can't.
Yeah, hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, I think.
Yes.